pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We put a cap on that camera up here.
Yeah.
You want me to pause? There's the other pleasantries first.
No, that's it. Just you. Hello.
How you doing,
Karen?
Karen, how are you?
Just fine.
Okay.
Hello.
I have had some inquiries, by the way, from folks within my Bible study. What are we going to
Is
do
one of
about?
them an attorney?
One of them is an attorney.
Good.
I'll talk to
Can
you
you
about.
talk to me after the meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
I've already talked to him about it.
Cool. I got $500 to pay for it. Not from county money, thank you very much. Okay.
Yes, but they also are looking for opportunities to help, so whatever
Very
that's worth.
good.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first one is they needed to change her family medical leave to 1 day later because she was good enough. This woman's really devoted. She's worked for me 13 and a half years, can't come back. So she comes in to try and make sure the shift is gonna do everything right when she leaves. And just really a good person. So that's why we had to change the date from the one that you passed last week.
The county home is requesting the board amend the motion from January 5th, 2016 to read approve unpaid family medical leave for Sherry French, full-time attendant, beginning January 11th, 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Aye.
Miller? Commissioner Claypool?
All right.
This is the person that you extended the FMLA for. Now she's resigning. I'm hoping she'll come back.
The county home is requesting the board accept the resignation of Sherry French, full-time attendant, to be effective January 11th, 2016.
Make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Aye.
Miller? Commissioner Claypool?
All right.
The road department tonight. Okay, this is Bobby Porter to hire her for a part-time position, but actually, thanks to David, we figured out how to use a temporary agency. So I would have hired her months ago, but I couldn't until her time period was up. So it worked out good, it really did.
The county home is requesting the board approve hiring Bobby Porter to the position of part-time attendant number 1504-1 to be effective February 2nd, 2016, at a rate of $10.47 per hour. After the successful completion of a 1,000-hour probationary period, the rate will increase to $11.02 per hour.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
All right.
Okay, now that we have staffed everything, now we can fill that cook position without crippling the building again. So this is to advertise internally for the position of full-time cook. We've been working without a cook all summer, that's why I live there practically. I'm a good cook.
What's your best meal?
I don't know.
Spaghetti.
I actually kind of like doing this. It's like cooking for a family reunion.
SpaghettiOs?
Yeah. Oh, man, those are slimy.
Ramen.
No.
Ramen noodles.
So we're gonna advertise internally. I have somebody that would like the job. She's a new, part-time attendant right now, but she's got extensive experience as a cook in a couple nursing homes and 2 summer camps. So she knows what she's doing. Before you guys vote on this, I want you really just come down for even 15 minutes and see what the kitchen looks like now. It was like, something out of a horror movie before, and it's really pretty neat. The community block grant money, yes, it was a federal thing, paid for it, but it's just amazing. I think I put like 6,000 in on it, but it's really good. It's clean, you don't feel creeped out about eating the food anymore, and, Well,
SpaghettiOs.
before I worked here, I was a job developer. I put people with developmental disabilities in jobs. You have no idea how dirty the kitchens are in places until you do something like that. It's horrible, but
Well,
it
I mean, I
really
would,
is.
I would
Try it.
invite,
Go in the back of some of those right there in Middlefield. You'd be appalled what it's like.
I'd invite anybody to come down and visit your home and see how clean it is
Oh, yeah.
throughout.
It
I'm
is
very
clean, and it doesn't smell.
impressed.
That's the whole reason I took the job.
And it's a century home, no less.
Oh, yeah, 1895, I think.
For a Century Home, it's actually a primo place.
I think the county has a place to be proud of, I really do. I don't think it's not dark and creepy or scary or anything. I can remember going to the county home in Lake County when my kids were little, and it was creepy, you know, but it's homey at the
We could
county
probably throw
home.
a few more beds over at the coroner's place.
You always, every time I'm here, you bring up the coroner's office, so,
We're trying
you
to
know.
move that property the best
I
we
could
can.
get another side job and take care of dead people too, I guess, I don't know.
I was reading the ghost stories about Punderson Park, because I spoke last week at Punderson Park, and some of the ghost stories are unbelievable at Punderson Manor House.
Yeah.
If you go out and read about those.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and they're scary ghost stories, they're not like a friendly ghost, so. Anyway,
Okay, now, I got you really off track. I think I talked about it, so I'm just going to say okay.
The county home is requesting the board grant permission to advertise internally for the position of full-time cook number 1503 for a period of 5 days.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler? Commissioner Claypool?
Okay, so that means all I have left is one more part-timer, and we will be fully staffed, and that's because you guys made the decision to raise the rates. They're not quitting on me or anything, so this is,
Did we do a study on that, or?
I did, yes. I did it. I
As the
compared,
director?
I compared a whole bunch of private providers and Medicine Bomb and just some of the.
How much did that cost to do?
I'm free,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Perfect.
Yeah, I know, you can't get better than that.
do you contract yourself out?
Well, you know, you forget, and I used to do time studies when I did job development for people, so I do know how to do that. So it was like I got to use my skill for something else.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Did we need to read number 1 for the minutes?
You're looking at the wrong agenda. If you want to look at the updated one.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Okay, Mr. Manley.
Speaking of part-time. Yeah, I'm here to answer any questions, number one. Number two, let me give you a little bit of background. I've been an inspector, this is my 5th year.
Let me suggest something. If you're gonna stand, which is great, you might
Want to stand?
stand
You want me
right
to sit?
here. No, well, no, why don't you stand here?
There's a camera over
There's a
here.
camera behind you.
I'm sorry, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, no,
I'm
you
not
didn't
used to
know.
this.
You didn't know. No, this is good. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So this is my 5th year of inspecting bees, 2 years in Geauga County, and then when I moved out here to Geauga,
We have bees in Cuyahoga County?
a few. A few.
Wow.
So I'm also president of the Geauga County Beekeepers. I'm also at the Ohio State Beekeeper Association Western Reserve Director, which is all these counties up here, Trumbull and us and Portage and whatever makes up the Western Reserve. I also participate and take care of the bees at Case Western Farm, University's farm there in Hunting Valley, and teach beekeeping classes there and other places as well. So I'm here to answer any questions about bees if you have any. I did put together a little thing. I don't know how valuable it will be to you, but bees are, oops, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Over here, yeah.
To me, they're the most important thing in agriculture. Oh, I'm sorry, because of the fact that they're responsible for pollinating about 1/3 of what we eat. Without bees, the almond crop would cease to exist because the almonds bloom for about 3 years in California, or 3 weeks in California, and they bring bees in to pollinate. And without the bees, there would be no almond crop. So that's kind of like the first page. And to me, the honeybee is kind of like the canary in the coal mine. So when the honeybee goes down, we know that the world's starting to suffer. And then on the second page is what honey production was in 2014. So colony collapse disease hit in 2006. That's when 75% of all the beehives in the country were lost. They don't know why. There's
How many percent?
75%.
Oh.
So the number of bees went down. In Ohio, in 1950, we had about 100,000 hives or colonies in Ohio. Now we're about 35,000. So in the old days, honey was raised and taken care of and produced by farmers because they had a lot of land, and then it became more urban. And so the beekeeper now is more of an urban beekeeper as opposed to a rural beekeeper. even though in Geauga County, we still, we have farms and the average number of hives or colonies by a person in Geauga County is about 3 or 4. But if you look on this third page, I kind of put together a graph of where we see the hives registered. And by Ohio Revised Code, anybody who keeps a beehive is supposed to register with the state of Ohio, Department of Agriculture. It's $5 to register an apiary location. So you can have as many hives on that location. It costs you $5 for that location. If you have 2 locations, it'll be 5 and 5. So I broke it down by zip code or by city. Now the one caveat on this is it's based on the location of the person who registered the hive. Although their hive they may live in Middlefield, they may have their hives up in Huntsburg. So I didn't zip code break it down by where the hives were located, just where the people who registered the hives were located. And also in Ohio, there is the Ohio Department of Agriculture allows you to sign a no consent form. A no consent means that I'm not allowed to go inspect their bees. Even if I come and ask them and say, I go out to stop by, they say, no consent, can't come on my property. Now, the only way I could legally do that is if I could suspect them of disease, having a diseased hive, and then I would have to get involved with the sheriff and the Department of Agriculture and say, hey, I think there's an issue in these hives, so I think they have disease. And what I did was I kind of identified where the hives were registered and the number of no consents. So you can see that in Chardon, 35% of the hives that are registered by a person who living in Chardon has no consent, so I can't inspect them. If I call them and ask them, they say no, I'm allowed to go. On the next page is kind of like what's happening with Ohio.
Not to interrupt, but what would be the reason that they would just, they just don't?
Well, it goes back to 2 reasons. One is there's been inspectors in the past that they didn't care for, so they didn't want them coming on their property. So as I work with the inspector or the beekeepers in Geauga County, I try to work as a proponent, not an adversarial position. So things change over time, and people say, yeah, I'm not going to not let you on my property. I inspect my hives. It's like having a farm and you're raising cows, but you sign a no consent so nobody can come look to see if your cows are being properly cared for. So it's just the way it is, and we just have to work around it. So I try to. That's why I'm involved with all these different bee organizations and trying to build up our rapport and we do field days and classes and just try to build up more of a rapport with individual beekeepers. But you have some guys that'll say, "Do not come on our property. I never want to see anybody. I know how to take care of bees." So that's fine. So on the next page is what's happened in Ohio for the last 5 years. And you can see in 2010, 2011, we had a really nice winter. And I'm hoping 2014, 2015 is a nice winter. And we don't lose as many bees, but we lost 30%. Then went to 21, then went to 50, over 60. And then last year was over 50. And that's anecdotal evidence based on what the inspectors and the state says they've seen and people have reported. It's not scientifically proven that we lost 50%, but when I do surveys at my club, I say, how many people lost hives? How many did you have? 4? How many did you lose? 2? That's 50%. The next page is actually what my job is, and by Ohio Revised Code, they have a list of the 4 bee diseases that we inspect for. So the first one is called American foulbrood, and that's the worst. And if you get that, the only real way to treat it is to burn it. You can't treat it with any kind of medicine or antibiotics or anything like that. Now, if you have a mild case, sometimes you can throw the frames away, or sometimes you can treat with tetracycline. But in general, when you have American foulbrood, we as beekeepers don't want to infect our new bees when we bring them in, so we just burn everything. So one of my jobs is when I go around and inspect hives to see if they have foulbrood. If I suspect that they have foulbrood, I send it to the Beltsville, Maryland Agricultural Lab, and they actually run a scientific analysis to prove it, because I don't want to tell somebody to burn their hives if they don't have foulbrood. So you have American foulbrood and you have European foulbrood. They kind of look the same, they kind of smell the same when you see a diseased hive, but they're not the same. You can treat European, you can't treat American. Make sense? Then the next one is the varroa mite, and you guys know about ticks and deer and dogs and all that kind of stuff. Well, the varroa mite, like a tick, it basically lands on the bee and it sucks the blood out of the bee. But more importantly, does it not only reduce the immunity of that bee, but it passes viruses to that bee. So the varroa mite first came to America in 1986. And that's why prior to 1986, you put the bees out in the field and you went and got the honey when you wanted to and you left them alone. Now you can't do that. Because everybody, even the feral bees that live in the trees and in the bee trees, have picked up varroa mite. A bee can fly 6 miles. So if I have varroa and that bee flies over here to a flower 6 miles, and my bees fly 6 miles, that's 12 miles, right? So they can pass from one hive to the next. They pick it up from flowers, they pick it up from being close to other bees. So I checked for varroa mite, and it's like a little tick, so you can see them, or you can do an ether roll, or put a mite board in the bottom of the bees and leave it there for 24 hours. Slide it out and count the number of mites per square inch. And if it's low, you can treat. If it's high, you really need to treat. And there's ways to treat organically, and there's ways to treat without causing issues with honey on the, having honey on and not being able to use the honey because of the fact that you're using a certain medication. The other one is called tracheomites. Tracheomites can only be discerned by microscopic examination, but in general in Ohio, we haven't had issues with tracheomites for 15 years. It's still listed as a serious bee disease, but we really don't have issues with it. And then the other thing is called small hive beetle, and that was brought into Ohio down around Circleville area, down in that way towards Dayton. When they brought a package in from someplace like in Florida, and they brought that package up, and it's a little beetle. It looks like it's smaller than a ladybug. It's all black, and it's just a pest. It doesn't kill the hive, but there's ways to treat for that too. So those are the 4 things I look for, major things. And then on the back page, it's kind of like Dr. Jim too, who was at OSU down in Worcester, but these are all the things we look for. So varroa mites we look for. Tracheomites, we really don't look for them because I'd have to sacrifice your bees, and it's not really a big issue. Ants and wax moths and stuff like that are no big deal. The American foul brood is a major disease. It is a gram-positive rod, and it creates spores, and those spores can live up to 100 years. So that's why you burn it, because the only way you can kill anything is either burn it or put it in an autoclave and do it that way. Nobody can afford to take their hive to an autoclave and have it done, so they just burn it.
Wow.
But those spores can live 100 years. And then your bee, it drops the spore here, and then your bee comes and picks it up. So that's why if we have a foul brood breakout, we look around the radius, because people, if they're within 6 mile radius of that hive, their bees have a tendency to, cross over and go to other flowers, so they can pick it up. Dysentery, you mentioned Nosema. Nosema is a protozoa. It's kind of like Montezuma's revenge for humans. They end up getting the poopies, and they weaken the bees, and the bees will die. So there's 2 types. There's the Nosema, and there's also called common dysentery or winter dysentery. So in the spring, when you go to look at your hive, you can see these brown spots. Those bees don't poop in the hive, they poop on the outside of the hive until they get sick, and then when they get sick, they poop inside the hive. It can be transferred from other bees. So if you have an infected Nosema hive, and you have a healthy hive, and then bees fly over here, they pick it up and take the spores back too.
When you talk about some of these diseases, and you say the American foul brood, that's
Really bad.
real bad. That's lethal. That's burn it, whatever. Some of these other ones, if you find any of these hives that have any of these diseases, you may be able to save the bees.
Correct.
But the product you throw out, is that, or?
Well, if you have, let's say Nosema usually happens in the spring and the fall. It usually doesn't happen during the nectar flow or the honey flow. But if you did have a diseased hive that had nosema, then that stuff would be on the honeycomb or on the honey supers, so you wouldn't be able to sell that.
Yeah, so then
Right.
that's, you may save the
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 but-
bees for future use,
Right,
but the harvest or the product for this year is probably
Gone.
gone.
yeah. If you have Varroa, those little ticky things, you can treat that, and if you use miter weight quick strips, which is like it actually kind of fumigates the hive, but it's been tested, and you can actually use it with a honey super. So if you have bees that have Varroa, and you have a honey on, and you're trying to get honey off, it won't affect the honey. It just makes the bees sick. Varroa just affects the bees. So you can actually still get a honey crop off by treating for Varroa. Because it's just like having a whole bunch of ticks on your body. So you can treat and get rid of those ticks and kill them, and so the honey's still good. Nosema could cause issues with the honey. You're correct with that. American foul brood, burn it and throw it away. There's nothing you can do about that. We don't have trichomite issues, and that wouldn't affect the honey. It just affects the bees. And then the small hive beetle, it's just a pest. So it's like having ants inside your beehive. Generally, the inside of a beehive is sterile. It's actually more sterile than a surgical sweep. The bees cock every crack, and they also use, in the bottom of a cell, they use propolis. And propolis is like a tarry material that they get off of pine trees and maple trees and stuff. And propolis is antimicrobial and antibacterial. So it's actually sterile inside of a hive unless you get diseases. So that's not really a big issue, unless you get a weakened hive or a diseased hive, and then things get, gets pretty yucky.
Now, have you ever found like this foul brood in Geauga?
One case in Geauga County was suspected, and I sent it in, and it came back negative. But I have not discovered any in Geauga County at this point. There was 3 years ago, let's see, 3 years ago, there was a case down on Pioneer Road, and I live on Pioneer Road, it was an Amish gentleman that had foul brood, and they sent it to Beltsville, and it came back positive, and he burned everything, killed everything. So if you have a weakened hive that's still alive, you just take soapy water and dump it on the bees, and it kills the bees, and then you just add lighter fluid, or take it out with the fluid. Any other questions about?
Well, yeah, I do have another question. If I decide that this is something that, and I'm not saying I am, I'm asking the question.
Oh, you should join the
I decide that
Geauga County beekeepers.
I decide I wanna, start to be a beekeeper and put some hives out. How does one go about doing that? I mean, obviously, step one is to go to one of the organizations that knows what they're doing, but, do you build your own hives? Are there people that build the hive,
Yeah.
the boxes and so on? And so then you get them from them, and then you get a starter kit or something,
Yeah. Basically, you do. That's
a
what it
queen
is.
and
Ant
a,
farm. Order bees.
right, yeah, queen
Ant
and
farm?
50 bees, here
Yeah.
you go.
Well, you need more than 50, but you're right. The woodenware, that's what we call woodenware, the boxes.
Mhm.
They're you can buy them from a variety of places. There's Amish that make them. There's a gentleman down on 87 in North Luther who makes beehives and woodenware out of poplar. There's different types of frame foundation. I use wax foundation for my bees, but you can use plastic. And the foundation is kind of like a honeycomb, and honeycomb is six-sided. And so when you create your frames, and most of the hives that you use are 10 frames, so you have 10 frames.
Mhm.
And then you can use wax, plastic, or plastic foundation. You can order a package of bees, and you can order a 2-pound package, which is about 7,500 bees plus the queen, or a 3-pound package, which is about 10,500 bees plus the queen. The bees come in, and then you dump them in your box, and you put your queen cage in there. Make sure you pull the cork out, and make sure there's only the sugar cube in there so they can chew it out. And then eventually they'll get used to the smell of the queen, the pheromones that she gets off. We'll release her from that, and then they'll start building what's honeycomb cells, and then she'll start laying eggs. And the first year you probably won't get honey off. The second year, they make it through winter. Then you build up good enough, and then you can have your possibly honey, extra honey for the following year. you want your hives to have 2 deeps, which are 10 frames, about 9.5 inches tall, 10 of those. And you want them to be really full of honey and pollen going into winter. So you need about 70 pounds per box. It needs to weigh about 70 pounds per box going into winter so that they have enough food to make it through winter. Bees use the nectar from flowers, that's their carbohydrates. So that's how they get, it's like I see in pasta. And then they get the pollen from the flower, and that's where they get their protein from. And a bee's just like a human being, they have to have 10 essential amino acids to make it. So they need the 10 essential amino acids, which they pick up from the different pollen. And they store that in the cells, along with honey. And honey is evaporated, moisture evaporated off of nectar. They bring nectar in, they bring it into their stomach, and then there's enzymes in there, and then they're regurgitated back into the cells. And then once that cell gets full of nectar, then they start by the evaporation process, evaporating off the moisture, and they will not cap honey, or will not cap nectar until it's about 18% moisture content. So if you open up your honey frames and you see that none of them are capped, then the moisture hasn't been evaporated off. Once it's evaporated off, they will cap that honey, and that capped honey is good forever. It's antimicrobial, antibacterial. It's been found in the Egyptian tombs from 3,000 years ago. They opened it up, they broke off a piece of comb and ate it. Because it won't spoil. So your honey will not spoil, it's been capped. If you extract honey off that's not been capped, it will spoil. It'll become alcoholic, it'll ferment. So that's why you want to make sure when you extract honey that 75 to 85% of that honey that you're extracting has been capped, or else it will spoil on you. And then you try to sell to somebody and they get upset. It smells bad. But you can make meat out of it if you want to make some meat. Other questions about bees?
How do we get a hold of you?
Okay, 2 ways. I'm listed on, as part of the Ohio Department of Agriculture, they have a listing of every inspector in the county. I'll give you my cell phone number too. I'm also listed on the Geauga County Beekeepers website. My phone number is area code 740-644-2277. And then my email is pioneerbees@aol.com.
Do you live around here?
I live down on Pioneer Road, which is in Huntsburg, off of 322. So if you go to Bunningsburg Road or Town Line Road, you go south 9/10 of a mile and then turn right on Pioneer from the third house on the north side.
How often are the club meetings?
We meet every month. Well, in general, it's monthly. It's the 4th Thursday of the month. It's at the Burton at the Kent State. So we have February, March, and April, and then in May, if you're a member of the association, we also have a field day. I'll leave that for you. And those are our planned activities for the field day. It's an all-day at Case Western Farm. So we'll have a speaker. Michelle Colopy is going to be the keynote speaker, and then Peggy Garnes will be the wrap-up speaker. And then we'll do a split. So we'll actually have a hive, we'll take it apart and make 2 out of 1. We're going to install a package of bees. We're going to do a hive inspection. We lift everything out and you look to see what brood looks like, what a drone looks like, what a laying queen looks like, what an egg looks like. And we'll also do queen grafting. So if you're really an experienced beekeeper, you want to make your own queens and graft them and start another, make your own queens. So we'll do that. So you're welcome to join if you wish. And that's May 21st. And because of my relationship with Case Western, we got the use of their property. They also have an apiary there with hives. And then they're also affiliated with the AI Root Company, which is in Medina. They used to be the father of modern, well, they've written many articles, but they used to be the largest manufacturer of bee supplies up until the mid-1900s, and then they decided to stick with liturgical candles and get out of the bee business. But they still produce Bee Culture magazine, and they have an apiary that they are participating in at Case Western. So it's actually a screened-in area, so you can actually inspect bees and stand on the outside of the screen, and they can bring it up right to you. You don't have to wear a veil or anything. It's pretty cool.
one more question.
Yes, sir.
If, I'll call them nuisance
Mhm.
bees, because bees is a generic term. You
Right.
got honeybees, also got,
Wasp.
you know,
Yellow
wasps,
jackets.
yellow jackets, hornets,
Yeah.
carpenter bees, and Lord knows what else, which they don't seem to understand. I have a deal with them. If they live out there, I leave them alone, but when they come to the house, they gotta go.
I agree with you.
But if I put product or, you know, some kind of dust or some kind of product on there, spray it with some stuff to eliminate the pest bees,
Right.
honeybees won't really go into that environment.
Generally not. If you have yellow jackets and a wasp, you know, they're protein eaters. They eat protein, so they eat dead things. If you have honeybees, they only eat nectar and they only use pollen for their protein, so they eat different things. Now, yellow jackets will fly down and get the syrup, you know, if you're having a Coke or something like that, and they will steal sugar water if you're feeding hummingbirds. But if you spray them with yellow jacket and wasp spray,
Right.
it won't bother the bees. Now, if you spray 7 Dust on your
On something like the rose bushes, or do something where the honeybees may go to the,
yeah, you will affect the
that will
honeybees.
affect it.
Yes. The best way to get rid of a yellow jacket is take bologna, mix it with 7 Dust, stick it close to where the yellow jackets are, and they will take off pieces back there to feed the queen. And so, you know what 7 Dust does.
Mhm.
So it will kill the queen and anything else like that too.
Gotta put it up where the dog won't find it, though.
But you do have to do that.
Put a piece of bologna in my house, my dog will be.
So you have yellow jackets, you know, there's a term for them, and then you have honeybees. Honeybees are good, yellow jackets are bad. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
So the carpenter bee is, by definition, in Ohio, we have 10, what they consider 10 native pollinators. The honeybee's one of them, but the honeybee's not native to Ohio. But the carpenter bee, there's a lesser and greater carpenter bee, and they're considered a pollinator because they actually pollinate plants. You have the squash bee, which only pollinates squash. You have the sweat bee, you know, those little greenish things.
Okay, yeah.
They're actually pollinators, and then the carpenter bee is the ones that drills the holes.
Yeah, a half-inch hole in everything that's wood. It just
Yeah.
looks like somebody
So-
stood there with a drill motor
Yeah.
drilling.
So, you know, there's ways to get rid of them, or you can take little, you know, like the old fax paper rolls, those cardboard things, to make a bunch of them together and stick it out somewhere else and hope they go there. But you're right, once you get carpenter bees, you need to treat for them or else you'll be in trouble.
And your house will fall down
But
after
the
a while.
honeybees generally won't bother you unless you're messing with them or you step on them by accident. But I can be standing out here and they're flying in and they fly right. You don't want to stand in front of the hive because they're coming into land. So if you stand and look to the side, they fly right in. They usually won't bother you. If they lose the queen in the hive, they get a little more aggressive because they're a little pissed off that they lost the queen and they're waiting for the new one to start. So they get a little more aggressive, but they usually won't bother you unless you're right up close to them. But, you know, a yellow jacket and a wasp, a bald-faced hornet will chase you. If you make them mad, they will follow you. Bees, you know, usually go away. They just want to take care of the queen and stay inside and have fun. But you're right, they can be a nuisance. Once a bee stings you, it dies. And all the bees that are.
That's a bee.
That's a bee. A wasp can sting you multiple times, a yellow jacket can sting you multiple times, a hornet can sting you multiple times.
And do.
And they do. So, if a bee stings you, usually you just pull the stinger out because you want to get rid of whatever that toxin is in that poison sac.
So, you know,
Yeah,
She had a question.
See, I was listening. You talked about people have the right not to inspect their hives.
It's called no consent.
So, when they produce honey, do they have to have it approved or inspected or something before they can sell it? Because you see people all over the place selling.
Well,
without
there's
part of their
certain
house.
requirements and labeling laws as it relates to honey. Honey is like molasses, or like, what's the stuff they make up here all the time?
Syrup.
Syrup, thank you. So it's considered, it's not a cottage industry, but it has its own regulations. So if I sell my honey, I have to label a certain way. If I sell my honey to a retail place, I have to label a certain way. If I get honey from somebody else and mix it with my honey, then we get into some issues. The law says if you're selling your honey and 75% of the honey has to come from your hives, you can sell it now as natural raw honey, and you have to label with your name and a phone number. They can contact you, and you have to have ounces on there, 8 ounces, 12 ounces, 16 ounces. If you're bringing somebody else's honey and mixing it with yours, and it's more than 75%, or it creates less, you know what I'm saying, then you have to label it differently, and you have to identify it as being a mixture.
So,
Go
let's
ahead.
just say he has a bunch of hives and he's selling honey to the county home. How do I know it's not a diseased hive? That, you know, what
Well,
happens
in
to you if
general,
you
honey,
eat that,
honey's
if
gonna
you
be
eat that
pure, it's
honey?
gonna be sterile. Okay, if it came from a disease hive that had like nosema, you know, where they had the poopies all over it, then you better be talking to the person you bought it from. It would look different. The color would be
Okay.
different, the viscosity would be different, it would smell different. Usually, most beekeepers are honest, and they wouldn't sell you something that they think is an issue. But
Okay.
I can't guarantee that 100%, because people do strange things. If I bake honey and I sell it to my friends, you know, that's different. If I take it to the market and they retail it for me, then you have different requirements.
Okay.
If you make creamed honey, where you aerate it and stuff like that, it has different requirements. If you make any kind of honey with flavoring in it, like licorice honey or almond honey or stuff like that, then that falls under a completely different requirements. And that means they can inspect your facility, they can inspect your kitchen, and that would be up to me to do that, you know, so, or an inspector, or so they have different requirements as far as how you can sell your honey and what you can sell your honey as. A honey that has flavoring in it is not considered honey, it's considered flavored, and it's not really honey, so it's not really natural, it's not really pure.
Is bourbon considered flavoring?
Oh, only if you buy Evan Williams. If you buy Jack Daniels, it doesn't. Evan Williams is better.
So it's generally honey says pure honey.
Yeah,
If it doesn't say pure honey,
right. If you go to the store, John Eagle, and you look at if it says pasteurized on it, pasteurized means it's been put through a heat process. The heat process kills anything, so like protein, it would denature the protein, it would kill everything in there. It tastes like honey, but it has no nutritional value. The reason people eat honey is because they want to pick up the pollen and build up the allergens to, you know, hay fever or whatever it is. The other thing that's really important in Ohio, and we're doing a lot of this statewide, and even ODOT's involved now, is planting bee-friendly strips, because, you know, in the old days, they would cut everything down, and now they're trying to get bee-friendly. There's a pollinator program in the state. There's opportunities if you have property and you want to get free seeds, we will provide you with free seeds to plant pollinator-friendly plants. The other thing I preach is, you know, bees are great pollinators, but the monarch butterfly, and it only uses the milkweed. That's where they lay their eggs, and that's what they use to feed on. So if you can plant milkweed and pollinator plants, you know, wildflowers or stuff like that in an area, bees use milkweed as well. So you're helping the monarch butterfly, and you're helping the honeybee, and any other native pollinator that's around.
Are there any wild hives left? I haven't seen a
Yep.
wild beehive in a long time. Or
Yeah.
even bees flitting around, you know, you used to see them all the time.
I used to see more in the old days. You know, they're cutting a lot of wood now, and I have some Amish boys that you know, we build tractors together and stuff. But they're lumberjacks, so they come across wild beehives all the time. Now, the question came up is, what happened to the feral bees? And if they do exist, do they have the varroa mite? Well, Dr. Tom Seeley is at Cornell, and he's been studying bees since 1970. So he had studies that he did pre-varroa, and then he went out into a forested area that's protected and identified feral beehives, and the same percentage of feral beehives exist today as they did, you know, back in the 1970s.
Really?
The genetic,
Yeah, you can continue that.
oh no, I'm done. If you're,
well, I just didn't want to forget, you have a question, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
I
sir.
was just curious, where do you find those regulations on the honey labeling?
On the high, go to, High Department of Agriculture, and then there will be a honey labeling, section that talks about what those requirements are. I can't tell you exactly what the link is, but they do have those.
The milkweed, if the honey pollinates the milkweed, that doesn't do anything to the honey, or if the bee pollinates the milkweed, that wouldn't do anything to the honey because
Well, the
it's
bees
toxic.
would take the pollen, would get the pollen from the milkweed.
And the plant itself is toxic, right?
No.
It's not-
Yeah, the plant itself is toxic, so you feed it to your goats if you don't want any more goats. But you're right, it
He's
is.
the beekeeper, not the goatkeeper.
It is toxic, but it
They're on their own.
doesn't. No, I like goats too. And chickens and.
And then from what it sounds like, you're describing the Langstroth hive, is that correct?
Yeah, it is Langstroth.
So do you have any experience with the top bar hive?
A marginal amount.
Yeah. For a beginner though, I've read the Langstroth
Well,
is better.
the requirements for a higher revised code, it says you must be able to inspect, which means you have to have removable frames. A Langstroth has removable frames, as does a top bar. What the issue with top bar is for you as a beekeeper is, usually you have a strip across there and then you draw their own cone. When you lift that up, you need to lift it straight up. You can't turn it to look, because as soon as you turn it, it all falls that way. So you just have to be careful with that. The interesting part about Langstroth, he's one of the two people from Ohio that are well known. He was a Presbyterian minister down in Oxford, Ohio, and he got the patent in 1893 for the Langstroth hive, the wooden hive that we see today. So it's been around since, 100 years. And that's called the Langstroth hive. And then the top bar is usually like a V shape, sits up on legs. If I'm going to do a top bar, I'm going to use it just so I have extra queens around. So if I lose a queen, I can take one out of here and let them make their own. So I like to keep Ohio queens as best I can, a natural queen.
I don't want to end the conversation. Ralph has something he needs to get to. Can we adjourn the meeting and then we can continue the conversation?
Yes.
We have
Sorry.
room.
I'm sorry, no, I didn't know, I just,
Just have another commitment, but this is pretty interesting, I appreciate this.
Thank you so much for
Coming
coming.
from you.
And I've got some more questions. So.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
well-
anytime you need me to do anything, just let me know.
if we have no other issue here, I move to adjourn. Somebody second?
Second.
We're out.
Okay, good.
So,
And
any
then we
more-
can still have our
any more
discussion
questions
here.
about